Imagine dying for 5 minutes and coming back with a message that no one wants to hear. This is not an ordinary story. It is a testimony that challenges everything you think you know about life, death, and the hidden history of humanity. Today, we will meet Valeria Mandi, a nurse who never believed in near-death experiences until she lived through one herself. During her time on the other side, she not only saw what exists after life, but Jesus revealed to her a forbidden truth. A truth so impactful that some tried to silence her, but she will not remain silent. What she saw will change your perception of reality. Are you ready to discover it? Stay until the end, because this story will not only leave you speechless, but could be the missing piece in the puzzle of humanity's hidden history. My name is Valeria Mandi, and I never imagined my life would take such a drastic turn. Convinced, I did not believe in the supernatural or stories about the beyond. I thought death was simply the end, a blackout of consciousness, nothing more. But what I experienced proved otherwise. Something so real, so vivid, that since that day, everything changed for me. It wasn't a sudden illness or a car accident like so many stories I've heard. What happened to me was different. It was a quiet night. I was working as a chef in a renowned restaurant in Buenos Aires, and that night had been particularly exhausting. We had been in the kitchen for hours, orders piling up, and the stifling heat from the stoves making everything more difficult. When I finally finished my shift, I decided to walk home to get some fresh air. It was late, but the streets were still lit by the city's nightlife, and that's when everything changed. As I walked down a less busy street, I felt a strange unease, as if someone was watching me. The air seemed denser, almost heavy. My instinct told me something was not right, and before I could react, I felt a blow to the head, dry and brutal, and the world went dark immediately. There was a period of confusion. There was no pain. It was as if a switch had been turned off, and suddenly, I was no longer there. The next thing I remember is floating above my own body. The scene was chilling. I saw a man rummaging through my pockets, taking my wallet and phone before running away. There I was, lying on the ground, motionless. I felt no fear or pain, just a disconcerting peace. For the first time in my life, I was not tied to the weight of my worries, stress, anxiety. It was as if everything that had ever worried me had simply disappeared. But then I felt something else. Something pulling me, drawing me away from the scene, an invisible force dragging me upward, and the higher I went, the more the reality I knew faded away. Suddenly, I found myself surrounded by a dazzling light. It was not like sunlight or a lamp, but something completely different. It was alive, warm, and conscious. I was not alone. In the distance, a figure began to emerge from the light. At first, I couldn't distinguish its features, but with each step it took towards me, its presence became more intense, until finally I knew it was Jesus. But it was not as I had imagined in paintings or religious accounts. His light was brighter than anything I had seen before, but I could look at him without difficulty. It was overwhelming and at the same time familiar. I knew, without him telling me, that he knew me to the depths of my being. There were no secrets, no masks. There was an absolute truth, Valeria. His voice resonated within me, not in my ears, but in the depths of my soul. There is something you need to see. And with just a gesture of his hand, the reality around me changed from night to day. I was no longer surrounded by that light. I felt as if I had been transported to another place, to a completely different reality, the ground beneath my feet. It was not earth or stone, but it supported me. The air had a different texture, as if it was imbued with life itself. I looked around, and what I saw took my breath away. I was in a landscape impossible to describe with human words. The sky had hues I had never seen on earth, and a celestial melody floated through the environment. It was not music in the common sense, but a harmonious vibration that could be felt in every fiber of my being. Jesus was by my side, watching me with infinite calm. This is a place of transition. Here souls arrive before moving on their path around me. Various luminous beings moved with grace. Some seemed to be in deep meditation. Others communicated in a way that did not require words. The peace that emanated from them was indescribable. But then everything changed again. Jesus extended his hand, and suddenly the scene transformed. Now I was in another place, vast and majestic, but with a different energy. A golden field stretched out before me, and in it there were hundreds, maybe thousands, of souls. You, me, in alone. They did not seem lost or wandering, but busy. Some were gathered in groups in learning sessions. Others were surrounded by a healing light, as if they were recovering from something they had experienced before arriving there. I saw souls embracing, reconnecting, remembering who they were deep down. Jesus looked at me, and I felt he already knew the question I wanted to ask. Is this heaven? I asked without needing to speak. He smiled tenderly. It is a part of it, but there is much more than humans have imagined. Just when I thought I was beginning to understand, his expression became more serious. Valeria, there is something you need to see, something humanity has forgotten. His hand rose once more, and reality changed again. Now I was in a completely different space. There was no more golden light or that absolute peace. I saw images floating in the air, like memories of something ancient civilizations, peoples full of wisdom and then darkness. Something had been ripped from history, deliberately erased, and the world forgot the truth. Jesus said with a solemn tone, "They made you believe that you are separate, that you are different, that some are worth more than others. But it was not so from the beginning." The vision became clearer. I saw a people with dark skin, radiant with light, knowledge, and connection with the divine. They were guardians of a wisdom that transcended the physical. But their history had been distorted. I saw chains. I saw how their true identity was buried under centuries of lies. They were chosen, continued Jesus. But the world feared their power, so they made them forget who they really were. My heart was pounding. What I was seeing was more than history. It was a revelation. But the time of truth has come, said Jesus, and you must help remember it. The vision faded, and I was left there, processing what I had just witnessed. I knew my life would never be the same again. I felt my chest racing, as if my soul was trying to process what I had just seen. The images remained vivid in my mind, those peoples full of wisdom, the light they emanated, the strength they possessed, and then the darkness that covered them, the chains, the lies that made them forget who they really were. I looked at Jesus with a mixture of awe and confusion. Why? I asked, why allow this to happen? Jesus looked at me with infinite serenity, but in his eyes there was something more: pain. Because free will is the fundamental law, he replied. There is no love without freedom, and humanity has used this freedom in ways that have caused suffering. But now, the time of revelation has come. Suddenly, he showed me another vision. This time I saw the same people, but in more recent times, some seemed confused, aimless, believing in an identity that was not theirs. I saw systems created to keep them oppressed, ideas sown in their minds to make them believe they were not what they really were. I saw how history had been rewritten, erasing their greatness. But then something changed. I saw lights rising one after another, like sparks of fire spreading across the world. They were people awakening. I saw how they remembered, how their spirit strengthened, how they rose with a force that no one could stop. The truth always finds its way, said Jesus. For centuries they tried to hide it, distort it, make it get lost in the shadows. But they cannot extinguish the light. of a people who were created to shine. The weight of his words fell upon me like a torrent. I understood that it was not just a matter of history, but of destiny, of purpose. It was not about revenge or resentment, but about restoration, about remembering what was always theirs. But there is still resistance. Continued Jesus. Many fear what will happen when the truth is known. They will try to silence it. They will do everything to prevent it from spreading. I immediately understood what he meant. I saw shadows moving across the world, forces that did not want humanity to awaken. I saw manipulation in the media, distractions created to divert attention. Conflicts designed to keep people divided. How can they fight against this? Before continuing, just one request. Subscribe to the channel. This helps us a lot to continue. Before we continue, just one request. Please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep going. I asked worriedly. Jesus looked at me with tenderness and a determination that pierced my soul. With knowledge, with love, with unity, he replied. The truth is your greatest weapon. Once you remember it, no one will be able to subdue you again. The visions began to fade, but the feeling inside me does not disappear. I knew that what I had just seen was not just a revelation. It was a calling. Valeria, Jesus said to me firmly, you must share this. Not everyone will believe you. Some will reject, others will mock, but those who are ready will feel a pull, as if something was calling me back. My time in that place was coming to an end. It is not your time yet, Jesus whispered. But when you time yet. Wake up. Remember the truth. It cannot be buried forever. The light around me began to fade, and I felt as if I was being pulled back. Suddenly, everything disappeared. The light, the visions, the voice of Jesus. Everything vanished in an instant, and I was thrown back into darkness. I felt as if I was falling through the void, as if something was dragging me back to my body. I opened my eyes suddenly, and the first thing I saw were white lights flashing above me. I felt my chest burning, as if my soul had been ripped out and forcefully returned. A deafening hum filled my ears and my vision was blurry. What is alive? I shouted, or voices and hurried movement around me. It took me a few seconds to understand where I was. The cold metal on my back, the fluorescent lights, the monitors emitting constant sounds, and I was back in the hospital. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, as if I hadn't used my voice in centuries. My body was weak, heavy, but my mind was still vibrating with everything I had seen. A nurse leaned over me with tears in her eyes. I can't believe it, she whispered. You had no pulse. You were without vital signs for more than 5 minutes. Came back. Reality hit me hard. I had been dead. Not just unconscious, not just dreaming. I had crossed to the other side, and what I had seen, what I had learned, I could not ignore. My family arrived, running minutes later, with faces full of fear and relief. Could barely respond. My mind was trapped in the images that still burned inside me. Jesus showing me the truth. The ancient villages full of light. The manipulation of history. The awakening souls. I had a mission. Days passed, and my body began to recover. But my spirit was no longer the same. I tried to explain to my family what I had experienced, but their reactions were confused. Some looked at me with concern, others with disbelief. It was just a dream, Valeria. My sister told me, your brain trying to process the trauma. But I knew the truth. The following nights were difficult. I couldn't sleep without feeling that energy inside me, without hearing the voice of Jesus, repeating those words in my mind. The truth cannot be buried forever. Something inside me said that I needed to speak, that I needed to share what I had learned. But a part of me was afraid. What if no one was afraid? What if no one believed me? What if they thought I was crazy? But then something happened that I did not expect. One day while I was at home trying to organize my thoughts, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered cautiously. "The Lironenik?" asked a deep voice on the other end of the line. This, I heard a pause. Then the voice replied, with something that left me stunned. "We know what you saw." The air caught in my throat. What I whispered, "Feel run down my back." "We know what you saw," repeated the voice, this time more firmly. "And we warn you. Do not speak." Before I could respond, I was paralyzed with the receiver in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. Who were they? How did they know what I had seen? Why did they want me to stay silent? Something inside me was ignited. This was not just my story. It was something bigger. Something that someone did not want to be revealed. I stood up, took a deep breath, and made my decision. I was not going to be silent. Jesus had shown me the truth. And now it was my duty to share it regardless of the consequences, if this story impacted you as much as it did us. Subscribe now, so you don't miss more revelations like this. Leave your comment and tell me which part surprised you the most. And if you believe this truth deserves to be heard, like and share with more people. Now I leave you with another video that will also open your eyes to realities they tried to hide from us. Click and continue discovering the truth.